I mentioned that the Normans brought a new kind of culture, probably what you're more used to thinking and hearing about associated with medieval culture. So, feudalism is a system with both political and economic elements, and those work together to create the social system that was feudalism in the medieval European period. So the political aspect of feudalism involved parceling the land in exchange for military service. And this occurred in the aristocracy. So starting from the king, essentially the king owned the entire place. So if this little triangle here represents England, the king essentially owns all of it. And then he rents the land out to his lords for that military service. And then that would just continue to go down the line. So the piece of land was called a fief, and the giver of the land was the lord, and the receiver of the land was the vassal. The medieval knight, who appears in Arthurian romance and in a lot of other places, was a landed vassal who fought for his lord for 40 days a year. Eventually, the fiefs became hereditary and had fees associated with that hereditary nature. The economic aspect involved parceling land. So we have the lord who goes to the vassal who goes to the serf. The lord would split up their land between their vassals, and then each of the vassal could become a lord to their own vassals or to their own serfs. So the economic aspect involved parceling the land for the rent. So this happened in both the upper and the lower classes. In the fief system, the vassals had to pay their lords fees pretty much for everything. If you had a wedding, if you inherited something, if somebody died, there was a fee or a tax. And then there's also regular property taxes. So you can see here, serfs are the lowest, and the taxes work their way back up to the king, just kind of like a pyramid scheme almost, except it's not, because you have no choice. The lower classes utilized the manorial system, so they had manors. The lord of the manor, essentially the equivalent of an Anglo-Saxon village, would allow serfs to live on and work their land in exchange for high rents and a space for them to make their own little garden and farming area. Serfdom eventually also became hereditary, just like fiefdom did. Eventually, a serf became tied to the land and tied to the lord, and the lord was obligated to offer protection for the serfs whenever trouble might happen. It was a system where the serfs really, they got the short end of the stick.
Oh, it's you again, me lady, talking all about medieval stuff. Well, what you have to say today about it?
Hi there. I'm talking about medieval stuff again. That's right. I was talking about how the feudal system worked with like the land coming down from the king, you know?
It's true. My lord, he has a lord, and he has a lord, and then it goes all the way up to the king. I saw the king once he went by in a parade. I tried to throw dung at him, but it didn't reach.
That must have been disappointing.
All right, this way. Come on, a little bit closer. Let's go. Move.
It's a hard
Let's
pass.
go.
I'm not coming any closer. I've got enough dung in my life. I have a dog.
Okay.
How about I just get back to talking about feudalism? I've got some more stuff I gotta say. Is that cool?
Oh yeah.
Great. So this is the Domesday Book. And this was a census essentially compiled by William in 1086, around the same time that the Bayeux Tapestry was commissioned and made. And he took a census of the entire country, and he tried to figure out where everybody was and tried to take account of everyone. Although he didn't necessarily take account of all of the clergy. But you can see in the picture areas where towns, over 2,000 were. But 85% of the population was serfs. 13% of the population was freemen, which is people who were living in towns and practicing trades. So people who were millers and blacksmiths and glass blowers and ceramic potters and things like that. So just to give you kind of a comparison to today, William the Conqueror, right, head guy in England, one of the most rich guys in that time period, he earned about 400,000 pounds a year. So pounds is the English currency. So he earned about 400,000 pounds a year. And an average day laborer, like a day laboring serf, would earn about 2 pounds a year. William the Conqueror made about 200,000 times more a year than an average day laborer or serf. And so that's kind of where the income disparity was, right? Today, just for comparison purposes, if you make minimum wage in the United States, which is currently $7.25 federally, that would be a yearly salary of $15,080. So that's if you were making minimum wage working 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year. Jeff Bezos, on the other hand, made $40 billion in 2019, according to the information that I can find on the interwebs. So if he did make $40 billion in 2019, that is basically around 2.6 million more times than what the lowest paid worker is making. So it used to be a ratio of 1 to 200,000. Now it is a ratio of 1 to 2.6 million. So you can see that the wealth disparity has increased substantially since the medieval period. I think we think of medieval serfs as really having this horrible, horrible existence. And in many ways, it was a really extremely difficult and challenging existence. In fact, you may have even heard about on the internet, you can find things where they say things like, oh, medieval serfs only worked 150 days a year. Americans work more than medieval serfs worked, and things like that.
You think you know something about being a medieval peasant?
No, you're misunderstanding. I'm just about to.
I'm tired of everybody talking about how the medieval peasant had it better than today's worker in the United States. If you think it's easy to plough the field every day for your master and then go home and plough it again for yourself. Yeah, we didn't have stores. There was no 7-Eleven we could go to get hot Cheetos. No, we had to grow it ourselves or kill it ourselves. No.
Listen, Mr. Peasant, I never meant to imply that you guys had an easy life. That's not what I'm saying.
Those 150 days that I'm supposed to work, well, those are the days I work for the Lord. Then there's the days I have to work for myself. Who do you think grows my own food? Food for me wife, for me kids? Me. And then I have to trade that food. I have to trade it for, if I want a fork to eat with, fancy like, I have to trade for it. If I want a mug to drink me ale, guess what I have to do? Yeah, I have to get some turnips together and I have to go trade for it. You think it's so easy. Those 150 days are days that I work for them and the rest I work for me.
I was going to tell him that.
How many hours a week do you spend slaughtering animals?
I'm a vegetarian.
How many hours a week do you spend making your own clothes? How many hours a week do you spend growing your own food? Nah, you're spending all day on TikTok.
TikTok?
Medieval peasants, indeed. Humph.
He's not wrong. Peasants didn't have to work in a traditional way that we do in terms of the 40-hour-a-week, 9-to-5 type of situation. And they had certain times when they had less work. There were a lot of holidays and feast days that they didn't have to work on. And also during the winter, if there's no crops to be harvested and you're a farmer, there's less of that stuff for you to do. So then you have to focus on all the other myriad things that one needed to do in the medieval period to sustain life. So during the period of the Domesday Book, at this time, there were probably around 1.5 to 2 million people in England, and that's down from the estimated 4 million that were there in Roman times, and compared to 56 million now. So just to give you a sense of the difference. So England is going to grow from this low of 1.5 to 2 million over the next 2 centuries. It's going to double. It's going to go to 3 or 4 million. Population doubling is a pretty big deal. There was a number of things that contributed to that. For example, they had a break from the plague. They had plague earlier, and then they had a break from it for a while, for a couple centuries, which allowed them to get ahead of it. There was the shift away from what the sort of Roman system and the Anglo-Saxon system was to have slaves. But the feudal system was to have serfs. So slaves aren't allowed to have family units in the same way, whereas serfs get married and have families and essentially reproduce themselves. So if you're looking for population growth, serfdom is a system that is conducive to population growth. And the other thing that helped allow the population to flourish was the fact that the invasions had finally stopped. Once the Normans came over, things settled down. We didn't get a lot more invasions. And the Normans instituted a national system of government, which helped resist some of the warring that had happened in the tribal system of the Anglo-Saxons. So all of those things end up contributing together to allow for this huge population growth that happens over the next 2 centuries in England. All right, so I'm going to talk to you about the 3 medieval estates. So medieval Europe conceptualized social class in a different way than we do. They didn't have upper, lower, middle. That wasn't how they worried about it. They separated it based on the category that you existed in terms of what you did, like what you contributed to society. So you can see the three categories right here, and I'll go ahead and I'll talk to you about each of them. There is the first estate.
Of course, I'm a member of the first estate. Those who fought, or those who rule, depending on how you're looking at it. You know, I'm not going to fight, but I love telling people what to do.
I bet you do.
Oh, I'm so droll.
Yes, the first estate is the knights and the aristocracy, those who fight or those who rule. Then there's the second estate, those who pray. Then there's the second estate, those who pray.
Excuse me, youngling. Did I hear someone talking about a prayer?
You did, Sister Eglantine. I was just talking about the second estate, the clergy.
But I am a member of the clergy. Have you taught them about all of the religious orders yet? The mendicants, the regular clergy, and of course the most honoured and revered of all, the monastic orders.
No, not yet. That's coming up in the next video. Would you maybe want to come back and join me for that one?
I'd better, just to make sure you're not mucking everything up.
I beg your pardon. I'm not going to muck anything up.
Of course, dear, of course. Heaven help us. I'm sure you'll be fine, God willing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'll leave you to your wild heathen ways, and I'll join you when you need me in the next video.
Thanks, sister.
I live to serve.
Okay, that leaves us with the third estate, the peasantry, those who farm.
I represent the third estate, the peasantry, those who farm or work. I wish I'd been born at night. I like it when I see them riding by on their steeds, but I've never been to a tournament. Maybe one day. Would you get me in, me lady, to a tournament? Oh, I bet you could.
No, I don't have that authority. I don't even live in the 12th century.
Go on, you could, you could.
No, I don't have any way to get you. I can't change your estate, man. I don't have that power.
No. I'll show you a TikTok dance. It's called plowing.
See you in the next video.